Hello, my name is Corey Russell, and I'm going to talk about how to succeed with the Klingons on tech levels 1 through 4. Um, and what's interesting is that on Tech 5, the Klingons dominate with their heavy cruisers and attack cruiser 2s, but the lower techs, they struggle. Probably because without these advanced ships, they're not as effective against the other races. So I'm going to talk about some of the difficulties that Klingons have and what approaches the Klingons can do uh, to still succeed at impossible. Um, One of the important strategies for all races, including Klingons, is minor races. Um, at Tech 5, you typically blow up minor ships and conquer them, but at lower techs, it's definitely much better to instead recruit minor races the moment they're developed uh, to both get their ships, if they have any, and as well as their industry will do much better than your homeworld industry, or any starting colony for that matter. And plus, your homeworld often has to work on research and intelligence, anyways. So, and as well as upgrading structures and needs energy for special structures too. Um, so, in general, you would use the minor races to pump out ships. Um, which in turn you can use to defend yourself, and of course, eventually enough ships do offense. So, what do we mean by developed? So, let's take a look here at the Shiliak. You can see they have one green system, so one terraform system. So, they are not developed. So, if I were going to recruit them, I would I'd try to establish a trade relationship, and then, as finances allowed, get them to affiliation, so that way they won't um, have treaties of other races, as well as sometimes their ships will find your space and help protect you against other empires, which can be pretty handy. Um, and then you'll carefully watch it, and as soon as most or all the systems become green, that is terraformed, that means they're developed, and you want to make them a member race as soon as possible, and then they can start pumping out ships for the empire. Um, so at Tech 4, which I think is actually the hardest tech for Klingons because the Klingons, excuse me, the Cardassians and Romulans are not very far from their Tal Shiar and Obsidian Order structures. And then combining with the lower databank tech, can really cripple Klingons. And so this is why, um, as Klingons on these lower techs, you want to just explore till you get at least one system, 250 or higher population, as well as one minor race that's recruitable, and then just work on recruiting that minor race when they're developed, and as well as getting many research and intelligence on your new colony as possible, so that you can help defend yourself in case you run across the Cardassians or the Romulans from their intelligence. Although it's lower tech, the intelligence usually is not quite dangerous, but Tech 4 it is. They can again because they're not very far from the advanced structures, can be very dangerous. So and this is why you want to expand very cautiously until you get your intelligence much stronger, and plus you need stronger fleets too. Speaking of fleets, at Tech 4 the key is your Scout 2, but just remember you need a lot of them in order to be effective at defense and offense. And don't forget to use outposts and star bases, which can help defend your territory. Um, and then at the lower techs, Techs 1 to 3, Klingon ships are a huge disadvantage. As like, for example, the Federation and Cardassians can be dangerous with RAM. The Ferengi Light Raiders incredibly problematic for Klingons because they have better firepower and shields. Plus, they're pretty cheap to build. And of course, Ramen Cloak is always troublesome. So, as such, at these lower techs, you need a huge amount of Klingon ships to even survive a battle. and um, and so in reality, unless you have a bunch of minor ships supplementing your fleet, um, you or you have a just tremendous huge fleet, and even then you have a huge fleet of scouts and destroyers, you'll take heavy casualties. You'll need much more than you might think in order to make any progress against other fleets, other Empire fleets. So the end result is really the Klingons can't go on an offensive until they develop battlecruiser or strike cruisers. Um, and so you should be pretty cautious in development at first. But once you get enough battlecruisers or strike cruisers, then you can start going on the offensive with Klingons. Speaking of which, let's talk about research here. So I find that because your research is so weak at low levels, it's best to upgrade one level at a time. I mean, like, okay, biotech, let's say 1, and then construction, I mean, 1 to 2, I mean, and then construction 1 to 2, and so on. Get everything 2, and then everything 3, everything 4, and so on. But as you're doing that, sometimes you'll change up on that depending on what the situation is. For one thing, keep an eye on theoretical stimulators. If you can ever practically get computer 5, go for it, because then, of course, once you have these, you can put these all over your empire, and build intelligence and industry instead, which would be much more helpful. The other thing is, you should regularly check your research for ships, and any, like, for example, here I can get destroyers with just 2 tech. So you want to carefully monitor this, and anytime you can practically get an upgraded ship or a new ship, like say battlecruiser, for example, then you should concentrate on those and get those upgrades. And likewise, for example, if you can get Outpost 2, Outpost 2 really are much better than Outpost 1s, or Starbase, same thing, much better. Then you should get those too. So carefully monitor your ships, and if there gets a point a ship isn't too far off, then work on the techs necessary to get those ships as soon as possible. You see down here the red, so these are the ones you got to work on. For basic destroyer, just need 2 techs, so I'll probably work on propulsion and weapons first. Get that first. And the other thing too is at lower techs, RAM is much more effective, even for Klingons, depending on who you're facing. Like some Ferengi ships, you can, like the Light Raider, you can ram, which is more effective in shooting them because they can outgun you. So watch for opportunities for that kind of maneuver. Ram it can be effective for any race, actually, depending on what you're facing or what you're trying to ram. Yes. So, anyways, that's what you do with research, and obviously, any research race, if you happen to get them, that's great. But you don't want to go out of your way for that, though, because again, if you expand too fast, you can get overrun by other empires because your ships just get destroyed. I mean, really, the Klingon ships are at a pretty disadvantage at low techs. So anyway, that's research. And let's see. And we talked about what to do with the low techs. So in the beginning, you pretty much have to work on your buildings, like your food industry and some security. You usually don't need a lot of security at low levels, but you definitely need halls of learning and get your research up. Just remember that it's important to get at least one colony that's good size to help supplement your research and intelligence. Okay, so that's my general approach. So just remember that minor races are key, and in fact, if you try to play low tech without minor races, it's very, very tough. It's just against a computer, so you need minor races. Okay, well, I hope this was helpful, you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.